One word to describe WERU. That's a hard one. I would say genuine.
Interesting.
Very awesome.
Eclectic.
Well, of course, eclectic.
Unique and great.
Courageous.
Choose access as the word.
Diverse.
Community.
It's in its name. It's community.
Living, truly living.
Sincere.
Glorious.
Amazingly and wonderfully, that's more than one word, unique.
I'm not sure if people know the whole history and all the details, but the original board of directors were all members of local churches, different clergy members. And the idea was to have a Christian non-commercial radio station to come on the air. It was fairly early on in the process of the ascertainment study of interviewing people in the community to find out what the needs were and the desires, that a community station was more appropriate.
Into this awareness that, well, by golly, yeah, we could have a very wide-ranging radio station. I remember the most pointed my involvement became was when Dave and Reg came downstairs with a huge fold-out sheet of printed possible call letters for the station. There must have been a choice of 20, 30 that were appealing, but none so appealing as the alliteration WERU, which could be pronounced we are you. What a great title for a community radio station. So from that simple beginning in those 4 call letters, WERU, a concept took reality. Might say it took reality by storm, because immediately the fractionalization of programming, in other words, it wasn't a news station, it wasn't a country and western station, it became a hybrid of every voice of the community.
The strongest memory I have about the beginnings of WERU is how it galvanized the community. That was completely exciting to me. Having this project go on, it was just like the birthing of this new baby that so many people in the community were excited about.
The origins of the station were driven by complete passion. And there was a great gratitude that we all have to Noel Paul Stuckey, but I would say David Snyder. And there were many, many other people I could mention in those early years that were all, just really all about passion, and people worked overtime and they had other jobs, but they would just come in and do whatever had to be done. Nobody was paid.
It was a lot of work to put this together. It's that this kind of endeavor really does not work if everyone doesn't pitch in, and it wasn't like someone said 3 Hail Marys and the radio station appeared. It was the work of many, many people just to get it on the air.
It was definitely the thing to be doing, the place to be. It was very hot. It was exciting.
I knew that it was going to come on the air, and I was in my little apartment on Washington Street in Camden. And I remember having the radio turned on to the right place and just waiting.
One point, it was determined that PR was the focus, public relations, and getting the word out about the effort, generating a mailing list, etc.
I was part of the first training class, first cohort of volunteers, and we learned from Jim Campbell and David Snyder and several of the other folks about radio and what they were trying to do. We weren't on the air, we were all getting ready to do the launch.
Organizing the purchase of the equipment for both the transmitter site and the studio location.
What I remember is planning going on the air celebration. The amount of planning and the amount of nervousness that we were just scared to death about. You know, was this thing going to work? We were going to throw this, switch that was a symbolic switch, but was the radio station really going to start broadcasting then? It was very dicey.
May 1st, 1988, I'll never forget it. And I had borrowed a trailer for a stage from Gary Butler, and it was threatening to rain that day, and we were all not sure how things would turn out, and it did rain actually, but we had quite a crowd, and we had a covered stage. We erected a little roof over this trailer stage, and Pixie Lauer was there with her sound equipment, and we put plastic bags over the speakers, and yeah, we made it happen despite the rain.
I was there on the first day. I think it was raining. We were dancing in the parking lot. It was very exciting.
On the particular day that WERU went on the air, May 1st, I was on duty with the ambulance. So I, in my uniform, and other people stopped by to see the outdoor show, which it was. Because it was so exciting that we were having a radio station in our own town.
And it all worked. It all worked, which was great. You know, we got to hear us on the radio. It was miraculous after all that planning. It was pretty exciting.
I was working up in my boat shop, and I was recovering a canoe, and I heard this music coming on, and because I had the station already, I knew where it was going to be, and then all of a sudden, there it was, at the long-promised radio station, WERU.
The day that the radio station came on the air, I was celebrating at home. I had a little baby. She was born in December of that year, so she's 25, the station's 25, and I was nursing Christina Sperling in front of the radio the very first day that WERU came on the air.
You know, I was working doing some construction and carpentry and things on Swans Island, and I think we just started listening, and all of a sudden this radio station showed up in 1988. I think they were out of the chicken coop in Blue Hill. Started listening and really enjoyed it, so that was how we got started listening to WERU.
So I first became aware of WERU probably when I was about 15 or 16, and I was like, what is this?
It was back in the late 80s, and I distinctly remember I was about 10 years old, and my uncle had come from Albuquerque. He's a radio guy from way back, loved hearing music, and he climbed on our roof with an antenna because he already knew of WERU and was one of the first members. So he was excited to share with our family and scrambled to top the roof with a huge antenna, and sure enough, we were able to tune in from the late 80s onward, and it's always been a source of inspiration.
I started listening coming up to Maine in the summer and finding it and realizing it was the best station around, so then I always kept track every time I came up in the summer. Then I moved up here and started listening to it always while working out on a farm and stuff.
We became aware of it because in Belgrade, where we live, and in South Blue Hill, where you folks were before you moved to Orland, it was a long ways to rein you in. So I called WERU, and they sent me plans to build a special antenna to put on our house so we could rein you in, and that's how we learned about it. So we had to go a little extra step to be able to get you.
A lot has happened at WERU since the station went on the air in 1988, and people began to find it at 89.9 on their radio dials. At first, the station was on the air only 12 hours a day. It took another year and a half before the station went to a full 18-hour broadcast day, and 9.5 years until 24-hour service began. In 1990, the Full Circle Summer Fair started, which brought loads of fun for attendees and loads of income for the station. Perhaps the most famous Full Circle Fair took place in 1993 at the Blue Hill Fairgrounds, when thousands of people turned out to hear Peter, Paul, and Mary perform. Over the years, the number of summer fairs and activities in the area grew more numerous, and the Full Circle Fair, although a great social event, wound up actually costing the station money, and so was suspended after nearly 20 years. It didn't take long for WERU to outgrow its space in the venerable hen house in Blue Hill. So, in January of 1997, WERU began broadcasting from its new, more centrally located studio in Orland, where it still broadcasts from today. One of the first visitors to perform live from the new studio was Chris Smither, carrying on a long tradition of artists, musicians, activists, poets, writers, business people, and even a few politicians, stopping by the station to share their stories and songs and opinions and hopes and concerns and wisdoms. Over WERU's 25 years, hundreds of musicians have come by to perform at the WERU studio or at the Full Circle Fair, both local artists and those visiting, offering WERU listeners more live music than any other station in the area. And of course, it's all made possible by volunteers, nearly 1,400 over the station's history, young and old, on the air and behind the scenes, a few who've done radio before, most who've learned right at WERU, and some who've gone on to paid careers in other places. 25 years later, WERU has a staff of 7, 300 active volunteers, broadcast 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, with a diversity of material unmatched in our listening area. 800 different musical artists played in an average week, 50 genres of music, 400 guests a year on over 50 public affairs and spoken word programs, all part of WERU's mission to be a voice of many voices, no matter where those voices are heard, over the air or on computers, smartphones, or devices not even invented yet via the web. And of course, all that programming is supported by almost 2,500 individuals, business members, and underwriters. The slogan for WERU's 25th anniversary celebration is 25 years and counting. The world is changing and changing fast, and the future will be different from the past. So, what hopes do WERU volunteers and listeners have for the station's future?
Keep on doing what you're doing.
I would say to people, like, just keep listening. I think that we're going to be constantly changing and growing and evolving.
And I hope that WERU will go on and on forever. I hope that it will grow. I hope there'll be more and more community participation.
I hope that the station has another 125 years to go.
Well, I'm sure everyone answers this the same, which is I hope the station goes forever. I hope the station is never taken for granted. It's a gift to our community.
My biggest hope for the future of the station is that new people keep coming through the door.
I certainly hope that people keep listening and volunteering, and that we get some more young folks.
I definitely hope that in this changing media landscape, this terrestrial radio station still is something that people tune into many years from now.
Because it is a really great station, and it's very unique because of the ways that they allow people to create their own shows and the variety that you don't really get in other places, and it's definitely something that I would not want to see disappear.
I'd like to say congratulations to WERU for being around for 25 years and for not just maintaining, but for building and creating a real community radio feel in this area, connecting the area one place to another and giving people a forum for their ideas and thoughts. I'm just glad it's there, and I hope it continues for another 25 years and beyond that, and I think it probably will.
WERU is the station for me and you. Oh, we'll be rocking, yeah, we'll be rolling on WERU.